That's what makes us alive. That's what makes this earth
Yeah.
living. Humans, like, we've lost touch of that connection. Let's say, for example, the salmon. They know where they got to go.
Yeah.
You know, we also have that in us. You know, we talked a little bit before. Like, we've made choices as men, you know, to keep us connected with what our paths are. Right? Like, for me as an artist, I feel like a priest without a church. You know, like a servant of God without a clear vision of who God is or what it is.
Welcome to What's My Thesis. I'm Javier Proenza, and today my guest is Raul Baltazar. Raul, we go back to like the early days of the podcast when we were just talking because I was sweating setting up, and we were just talking about how much work I used to do going to people's places and just sweating my butt off.
Yeah, it's quite a...
No, but over here it's much easier. That, like, sometimes people are still like, hey, that don't know how I do it. They're like, hey, you want to come to my studio? And I'm like, no.
Right.
How you been, dude? We haven't seen each other in a while, but you're an artist. You are very well respected in the community that I move in, which is, you know, the Latino OGs community. Even though I'm not Mexican, you guys welcome me in like I am part of the area. Pero what you have a different... What I like about that cultural exchange entre Latinos is that you have a very different cultural background than you know, someone who, like, all of our stuff is different than all of our Cuban history is very different than, you know, Scott. It's a lot more grounded in the Caribbean and stuff. But you have what's his name? The Aztec Bunny.
Totally 7, the Aztec Bunny.
So that's why I always really like talking to you. Your episode has continues to get a lot of really good feedback. People are like, dude, Manuel was like, bro, that was the one. That was the one.
That's funny. That's good. Wow.
So yeah, and then we did an artist talk once, but it was like that was a rough day for me, and I don't want to talk about it. Okay. But I ended up recovering fine. So tell me a little bit about what you've been up to, man. Like, what kind of work have you been making? What's going on with you?
Well, funny enough, Aztec New Year is coming up, which is Year Tochli again. And that's when I started doing that. You could call him a character, but he's deeper than that. It's like Self-Help Graphics had asked me to perform for Aztec New Year, and it was the Year of the Rabbit. And so...
how long ago was that?
This was... about 13 years ago, I believe.
Oh, wow.
Because that's usually like the cycle of the Mexica sunstone, you know, like what they call the calendar, you know, so it kind of rotates in cycles of 13. So I might be a little off because I'm not like an anthropologist or anything. So, but that Year of the Rabbit has come back around. So I didn't even choose the character. You know, like, my community actually selected me to perform that rabbit or the bunny. And then I worked with one of the grandmothers in the community. And I'll just call her Roxy, you know. She was one of the people working there. And Omar Ramirez and Gabriel Tenorio were the directors of Self-Help Graphics back in the day. And they asked me to, if I would perform. You know, with a bunny outfit and the whole bit. And at that time, I was doing, I was going to many like native ceremonies, and there's usually a spiritual clown, you know, a hayoka. I'm not claiming that that's what I am at all, you know.
That you're not claiming that you are in the spiritual practices that...
No, that I'm like a hayoka or something, like some type of shaman, you know.
So a hayoka is like a shaman, kind of. Okay.
Yeah. You know, I'm more of a showman. Than a shaman. And so I I had witnessed a Sundance before where there was a Hayoka, sacred clown. His name was Crazy Bull. That was there, and I had never seen power like that before. It changed my life. And so, when I would do ceremony, doing sacred running or going to sun dances or sweat lodges, I would pray for the Chicano artist, or the artists, in the community. And so it definitely is like a calling, know. And when it's not through your own intentions, it's even more confirming, where you're just like, oh shit, like this is like my path, like this is what is called upon me. And you rise to the occasion. So since then I've been performing as I named him Tochli 7, the Aztec Bunny, which is kind of like, it's ironic, because it's like a bunny, like what's the one that we do here in Western cultures?
Easter Bunny?
Bugs Bunny, right? Playboy Bunny, we have a lot of stuff with the bunny. But, and then I use the Tochli, even though like I'm not Mexica, but I live in Mexico City, and that's like the dominant empire culture, was the Mexica back then, I just, I'm more Purepecha, who were actually warring against the Mexica, and the Mexica were never able to dominate them. So it was pretty interesting,
So tell me a little bit more about because last time we talked a lot more about mural art, like muralists, and that was kind of a learning thing for me, because I never, like, to me, muralists were like graffiti artists, not like, in the same vein that you see in LA, where there's like old murals that it becomes a scandal if someone like buffs over it. And then there's also Diego Rivera. There's a Mexican tradition of muralism. But we never really got into like you, like personally too directly in terms of talking about this like background. Like, what is do you have, because I've had santeros on the show, I've had different people, and like you're talking about ritual. What is the tradition that you come from, that ritual, or are you picking up stuff from your heritage and using it, even though you're not necessarily a practicing whatever tradition? What was it? What was I'm sorry. The Hayoka.
Yeah.
Like, do you? Is there a Mexica tradition that you grew up with? Like, what is the background there with your? Because like, I grew up. There was Santeria, but it was separate, so it was never part of my mythos, but it was part of my Cuban heritage. So like, I would go to people's houses and they would have altars. To where they would like, and it was just a part of that experience of being Cuban. But my family, like I've said this before on the show, my mom and I have talked about it. She would like be like, hey, don't mess, if you see these things, they are ritual items, don't mess with them. And I was like, is it because they're unhygienic, because it will be like an apple or a chicken leg, or is it because of the hoodoo? And she's like, a little bit of both. Yeah. So even though we weren't practicing people, like, I am very, very, I don't play with those. Like, I respect them, and if they want to have anything to do with me, I'll speak to them. But I don't want to. I don't want to bring myself to bring their attention upon me, because I know that there's like a discipline and a certain way of doing that, and it can be dangerous to do it otherwise. So I'm always like, I respect you guys. I'm not fucking. I'm not disrespecting. But so like, tell me a little bit about that in your cultural tradition, because I think that's kind of what I was starting with. Like, my cultural background is more Cuban, yours is more Mexican, and we don't have the Aztecs. We don't know. I don't even know. We don't even have la Malinche. Which is a very specific Mexican thing. And I had Joaquin Stacy, who's Ecuadorian, and he talks about how, like, I forget exactly what the details was, but even within Ecuador and Mexico, there's a difference in the way that these stories of La Malinche get interpreted differently, right? Like he was basically, I forget exactly how he said it, but what he was saying is that like over there, they didn't care about her. They wanted to focus on the European side.
Well, you know, I come from families that have like my parents, for example, and my grandparents migrated or would migrate back and forth from Mexico to Los Angeles. And my mom's side is more from El Paso, you know, the northern side of Mexico, where my dad's side is more from Michoacan or Guanajuato area, and then migrated to Mexico City, and then from Mexico City migrated, you know, to Los Angeles. You know, so in a way, they're telling the story of colonization here in the Americas, right? It was a lot of like the silver mines. It was a lot of the modernity. You know, it was a lot about just having to break away from poverty. And they were also very mixed between like Spanish blood, but mostly coming from an indigenous base of bloodline, right?
Did they speak like Nahuatl and that kind of thing? Because I know Galvez, Emmanuel Galvez, his grandparents spoke. So they spoke Spanish?
I would say this, okay, like Nahuatl, like, you know, like tomate, you know, like vas a ir a mi chante, like a lot of the calor, you know, a lot of words in Spanish are integrated with Nahuatl.
Okay.
You know, Nahuatl, you know. And so, you know, no language is always intertwined and never changing and growing, right? So, but the interesting thing is like coming from a people that were hit by the Mexica Empire and survived through that, you know, warring with them, but then being intertwined with the Mexican Revolution and the American Empire. And then before that, the Spanish Empire, you know, going to war. So it's pretty fascinating. And like you're saying, like the deeper you go into history, right? And not just take it at a surface level and those are the good guys, we're the bad, you know, or we're deemed as the bad guys, they're the good guys, or vice versa. You know, for example, La Malinche, you know, kind of taking it back to that, like when you go into the nuances of a people's struggle, you know, she was enslaved, you know, by the Mexicas. So she was, you know, she had an inheritance and she had been in a deep education. I mean, she knew like 5 or 6 languages, you know?
Which is probably why she was in the position she was too.
Yeah, and that's why she took advantage, you know, full force of, you know, like, you know, getting her sense of justice, right? Or although, you know, like, you know, and you know, hindsight is 20/20 kind of a thing. Can
you tell people? I mean, we're kind of inside baseballing it, but even before I moved to LA, I didn't know who La Malinche was. Can you express that story? I could recap it, but it would be bastardized because I only know it.
She was basically like the mother of the first mestizo, you know, or mixed blood, you know, Spanish. Although she's not, you know, because there was a Jeronimo and this other cat from Spain. I think actually the other guy, I can't think of his name right now. He had come way before, and he mixed and had kids with the Mayan culture, you know, and the other one didn't, you know. And then he joined up with Hernan Cortez after when he came, and the other one wouldn't, you know, because he already had roots here, and so anyhow, like you know, she was part of being an interpreter and recruiting people to join an alliance against the Mexica,
who were, from her perspective, it sounds like an oppressor too.
Yeah, they had taken all her land and everything. They had sold her, you know, as a slave, it might have been her own people that sold her as a slave to the Mexica for a barter or a deal or taxes, like some political kind of like arrangement. And so she eventually, I guess, like had kids, but then was betrayed by Hernan Cortez, and kind of
I think he took the kid, or am I wrong?
Yeah, it gets kind of like a little fuzzy for me, with that. Yeah, all the details on that part. But she's in a way like she's the Mexican. There's a whole history, like I think you guys touched base on that whole like hija de tu chingada madre. Yeah, like there's this whole love-hate relationship with your mother and father, or your roots, or your history, your culture. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, my family really got like cosmopolitanism hit or bestowed upon them hard. Like a lot of that generation, after World War II in the U.S., but in Mexico they got it really hard. So it was trying to get rid of your indigeneity and becoming a part of this cosmopolitan modern culture, and denying your indigenous roots as much as you can, because you would be looked at as the lowest. One of the lowest, because the lowest in Mexican culture would be like a black and indigenous culture, or African indigenous culture. And then because they had a whole casta system of like 12 different distinct.
Mexico did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, the Spanish that imposed that on Mexico.
Wow.
And so, like, if you had, let's say, a Spanish or a mestizo father, but an indigenous mother, that would be one. If you had, like, someone that was born in Spain with an indigenous mother, that would be a different one. I think that was more like you're a coyote. Like, yeah, so they had all these different caste systems, right? So my family always tried to be the model thing. It was like, don't eat with your mouth open. Put your, hands on the table. Having the quinceañera, when you think about that ritual, right? That's imposed. That's like trying to pretend you're some type of Spanish, like, prince and princess, or whatever. It's pretty funny. But all intertwined within that was also very native, cultural roots, the way we ate, language. The music still, folklorico, the dance and the ceremonies that were all intertwined with Catholicism, mm-hmm. and also were very, subversive practices. That's the Virgen de Guadalupe is a celestial map,
Oh, really? I
with
didn't know
different towns that are in her shroud, and it's basically the eclipse, which is the bullhorns on the bottom, the black, that's like the solar eclipse that's happening.
Oh, wow.
And then, the tie around her means that she's pregnant,
I wish I had an image in my head, because I don't.
Very connected to Coatlicue,
What's Coatlicue?
Coatlicue is the goddess of, the earth goddess, who devours everything. So we all come back to the earth, no matter what, And then she's the mother of like Coyoshauki, who's so they're all kind of connected. I'm not a master at it, but I really connect with it.
Yeah.
But there's a whole creation story about that. How Huitzilopochtli, her son, went to war with all the stars and the moon around the earth goddess, who got pregnant because she found a ball of feathers on the floor as she swept the temple. What happens when you sweep the temple? You're getting rid of all the filth,
mm-hmm.
right? A flying ball, kind of like a meteor or something.
Yeah.
Connects with the earth. It's the fire with the rock. The elements coming together somehow to create this world that we live in.
Yeah.
The stars in the night going to battle. The day and the night going to battle to create our present life, reality. So I went through like over fucking 12 years of Catholic school, since I was a little boy. My grandparents had altars, incredible, like, crucifixes and the Virgen de Guadalupe altars in the house, They're very devout, very like spiritual people, always prayed, before a meal, went to church, had their altars, just very genuinely good people. And so I grew up with all that, but I didn't know, and they didn't talk about the indigenous codes, but it was always there.
Yeah.
Like my dad would do like church kind of rituals and ceremonies. He would dress up like Juan Diego for the day of the Virgen de Guadalupe.
Who's Juan Diego?
Juan Diego was the one who presented the huipil, or like, he's the one who went to El Tepeyec, which was a hill where they always venerated the goddess, like Coyolxauhqui. So that was already thousands and thousands of years tradition. What do Catholics do when they take over a spot? They fucking rename the spiritual sites and the gods, or the saints. And so there was a whole story around that, you know. And then that's where her image came out on his huipil. And that's when he went back to the priests, who were there. And it was like deemed as a miracle that her image was on there. But they used that, of course, to, convert, people. But what's interesting to me, whether or not you believe it's a miracle or not, it's still this visual language and this revolution in aesthetics that changed our culture, to this whole other fucking level, right? Of,
you mean the infusion of European artistic styles combining with your stuff?
Yeah.
That
and the mythos around it, right? And the
blending of the myths,
the syncretism, the colonialism, the imperialism, the subversion with this colonial, when you're being subjugated by colonial power or some type of other power, it's always an agreement.
Yeah.
It's like, all right, dude, we got to live in this fucking little spot right here. Like, you're going to be over me, but the reality is, like, we got to meet on some rules,
Yeah.
If not, this is going to fall apart, like, never work. So there were agreements, And so what's interesting is, if you think about it, are those aesthetic agreements and those the mythological agreements, of belief, like of that miracle. Like, we still have it in our culture. Like you say, whether or not you believe in it, like, you're not going to be handling that chicken,
Yeah.
or like, you're going to leave it alone. You're going to respect it out of fear or mystery. Like,
or it's just not my business, like someone did this. I don't want to fuck with whatever powers they're fucking, or they know what they're doing. I don't. Yeah.
And there's something within you that knows it. Like, I don't really mess with, let's say, I had a friend who gave me a Santísima Muerte.
What's that?
The God, it's kind of like a postmodern deity, that's maybe like 50, 60 years old or more. But she comes rooted in Mesoamerican culture and is a syncretism with like the Virgen and all that. But it's a goddess of death, La Flaca, and a lot of people venerate her. Why? Because there's no place for them within narco culture, because they're not respected in the church, and so they created their own.
Yeah.
And there's a whole new pantheon that's being born for narco culture, or this kind of like lowbrow culture, with its own set of. If you really check out their aesthetics, it's incredible, because it is a blend of like Mesoamerican, Catholic, heavy metal, like Iron Maiden kind of aesthetics, like kitsch, like lowbrow, like kind of stuff like that, So it's, I mean, as an artist, I'm looking at all these things, you know, and exploring my truths,
Well, I mean, you're also in a place that used to be Mexico. Like this city is like, I always find it.
Or is it still Mexico? Like,
That's what I'm saying.
That's the whole thing, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Or is it LA? Or is it Tongva? Is it Yangna?
Yeah.
That's the whole thing, right? Like, those are ideologies, right? In the way we create like names for places that are gonna outlast us.
Yeah.
And
then places get renamed. I was just watching a thing about like why Marty McFly doesn't know where Doc Brown lives in Back to the Future. And then there, like, I had forgotten this, but because he the movie starts him leaving where his house is, right? He's in the garage, and then the rest of the building is not there. He's like the back lot of a Burger King, and he's like trying to figure out where it is, and he goes, "Oh, that used to be Kennedy, or that's Kennedy Street." So like streets getting renamed, and that idea of like historic erasure, which kind of, like, we can go several different ways, and I don't ever want you to feel like you have to shy away from the art to talk about the cultural stuff, but I find that there is this really like romantic need for, like, in academic circles and in more of the establishment group that kind of bailed on all the people that were protesting a certain war that we're not going to mention so that we don't get censored, but like I find that like people in those circles are obsessed with indigeneity, and they want to deny the colonial element. And I think that that's a really interesting thing, what you said about the agreement, And then there's another element to the Malinche thing, which I think is interesting because, like, I'm part of a diaspora that gets slandered a lot, right? There's still people coming from Cuba. Right, but the stereotype doesn't include them, and they're leaving, and they're in Mexico, and they're in Spain, and everywhere else, and they come to Miami and stuff. But everybody's still stuck on these like a few dickheads that end up on camera. So like this oversimplification of Latino identity and sort of like, and to me that's fascinating because there's still that agreement and there's still that colonialism, and America's the one that is imposing it. So it's almost like the American academic system wants to erase colonialism because they're the new rulers, and they want to focus on the indigenous identity and then separate us like, oh, these people are white because they have more conquistador blood in them, or these people are more indigenous, and they want to separate us in that way, when in reality colonialism has made us mostly a unified, similar language speaking grouping of people. And I just find that interesting. And so what you were saying about the syncretism and that agreement is something that I hadn't thought about, but yeah, that is part of it. Like, to some degree there is an agreement of, I know this is like bordering on getting yourself canceled. I'm not saying like Kanye said that sounds like a choice, but to some degree there is, like, I mean, it's happening right now, right? Like, we're breaking the agreement that we have to be governed in Minneapolis because we don't like what's happening, right? That's when the uprisings start. Not that it's like a significant uprising.
Well, there is an entire underground that's going on that most people aren't aware of, and many things that I'm also, of course, not aware of within ceremony and what I would call the core underbelly of this earth, like in this continent, and people that have risked and dedicated their lives to keeping these traditions going, So one thing that's always resonated with me is that we live in a culture between tradition and innovation.
Yeah.
In our role, because I don't live in the villages, but I have had the opportunity to do ceremony with them and to see it, throughout my life. And there's a connection there. And I do what I can to connect to it.
Yeah.
You know, in different forms. But I don't deny it, you know.
When you're talking about these rituals, it sounds like you're saying that they do have indigenous roots, but they're all
indigenous. Yeah, it's all roots that have been around way before any colonizers have come through. You know, like Western colonizers, or even you know, at the core before like the Mexica. You know, like you know, these practices that have evolved, you know, throughout the years as we've grown as a species, you know, as humans. And then now we're coming to a point where we're beginning to incarcerate ourselves through our technology, you know, which is only an extension of the body, right? Like if a hammer is an extension of a hand, the internet is an extension of our collective consciousness. And now we're really going into another phase as a cancer to the earth, if I feel, you know, or as a point where, like, you know, I mean, there's already been kids that are probably in their 20s now that have been photographed since before they were born. Yeah. You know, when you would see their picture on Facebook come out like, oh, it's a boy or a girl, you know, and it's this, you know, X-ray kind of photo of them. And their whole life has been tracked, you know. Mm-hmm. So now, like, I don't know about you, 'cause you're, you know, younger than I am, but it's almost like the last analog generation, you know.
Yeah. No, I'm part of that.
And so it's interesting to really be that generation, to be able to remember a time, you know, like Andy Warhol would say, like, oh, 15 minutes of fame, you know, is like the almost like the what you wanted, right? Or what, you know, what you could get out of a successful life here, you know. Mm-hmm. But now it's almost like 15 minutes of anonymity is going to be like can you imagine, like
the relief?
Yeah, the freedom, like, of that. Like,
you're hitting to something in my core right now, because this show has fucked with my it's fucked with me a little bit, just like the having a little bit, I mean, in a good way. It's a good thing, but it trips you out when people know you that you don't know. Even though you do it to yourself, it's still kind of like is disorienting.
And they've always done that to us, right? Like, they did it with television. They did it with the radio. They're doing it now with the internet.
Yeah.
Like, they can't, you know, they have to feel they have ultimate control of any technology that's let out for the people, you know. So at the end, the one thing they cannot control, even if they've outlawed it, are things like community rituals and ceremonies and food, and, like, even though they try and they make bastardized versions of it or what have you, and some people have forgotten how to make dishes themselves, you know, or their families don't do it anymore and all that. Like a lot of my family has basically become merged to white culture.
Yeah.
And then I do have another side of my family that has really kept their roots, but they're never going to be like my aunts and uncles, man.
What do you mean?
Like, just
economically, or
the three guitarras singing, you know, like at the family parties, and the foods, and just coming from Mexico and trying to make it here, and everyone being united, and like, and the stories, you know, from that time, like in the 40s.
That's the one that
50s.
Hasn't assimilated.
Well, both of them started out like that.
Okay.
But the choices my cousins made, and who they married and who they went with, who they, you know, their education, like how much Spanish they ended up learning, or compared to the English, and, you know, did they marry a white woman or you know, a white male, or, like, you know, whatever. It's supposed to be on white, actually. Although in a lot of other families, it's like black culture. No, but no, we also have black people in our family too. You know, so it's interesting, you know. But they've held on to a culture that my cousins that married black people, or like just basically two of my cousins, they haven't tried to like move into whiteness.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's
it's like, yeah.
It's ironic though, and this is something that I talk about because I go back to Miami, try to go back at least once a year. I love it. It's a little too small for me. I can't do this podcast out there because there's just not that many artists by comparison. But I believe that one of the reasons that people hate Cubans, because historically we gave you guys Obama. Without us, there would have been no 2 terms of Obama. I think a lot of them felt burnt by Obama because he stopped letting people come in with the same kind of, like, Obama shut down open immigration, open borders for Cubans. Cubans could just be pulled out of the ocean, and they immediately granted asylum. So Obama came around and he shut that down. But I think that one of the reasons that people hate us, it's the same thing. Like, you have like people who don't like Persians and stuff like that. They don't like refugee communities that out succeed them. and if you look at Miami, it's a city full of people that never assimilated, and the white flight happened. It was helped by the U.S. government because they were literally bringing children over from when they were, to flee communism. People like to like whitewash that and be like, oh no, America is bad. Like, people were getting tortured. I don't know how people would feel about it if that was happening over here, but I think that people...
It is happening here. I mean, people get tortured here too.
But I'm saying, like, then why is it okay when Cuba does it? Because they're communist, you know? Like, it's such a weird standard. And I think that I don't think... honestly, I don't think right-wingers feel that way. I like, right-wing Americans, they fuck with Cubans. I think that a certain liberal wants them meek so that they can tokenize them, and then if they can't tokenize them. So for me, when I come to LA and I see a 24% population of white people run this city, Hollywood, music, all of that shit, I get really offended, because that's not like what it is like where I'm from. Where I'm from, we run this fucking town. Our celebrities are Gloria Estefan, Andy Garcia, all of those people are all fucking Cubans, and they're all the top celebrities in Miami. To me, that shit is crazy. That is, and yeah, we hold on to those traditions. We hold on to our cultural traditions, like, and I find that out here, they disgust people. They don't even know what the traditions are. Just the fact that I am Cuban is upsetting to people. I've had people tell me if I'm homophobic, if I'm transphobic. I grew up in Miami, bro. That is, my LA is nowhere near as gay. in the concentration. I mean, where do you think like people are moving down to like, people move out to Miami?
Okay, well, real quick. Okay, so because you said a lot.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to not fall into those trappings of like this kind of binaries, or these ways that the media tries to like position these arguments, right?
Yeah.
And I know I'll never win within them if I think that way.
Yeah.
So that's where, as an artist, I have to think in a different way, So, for example, my concept is that I do not support sanctioned or unsanctioned forms of violence in any way, except if there comes that point where you have to fight for your life, or if you're at war, like it gets very real. And the Cubanos have been like the Haitians, like people that went up to fight against the U.S. imperialism.
My great uncle fought for Cuba in the Bay of Pigs.
Well, there you go.
How's that stereotype working?
My grandmothers fought with Pancho Villa.
Yeah.
You know, with Zapata. Like, we wouldn't be alive if it wasn't for what they did.
Yeah.
You know, and immigration or migration is what makes us alive. Like, if the salmon wouldn't fucking swim to where they had to go, if the geese or the birds or the buffalo, like, that's what makes us alive. That's what makes this earth living. Humans, like, we've lost touch of that connection. Let's say, for example, the salmon, they know where they got to go.
Yeah.
You know, we also have that in us. You know, we talked a little bit before, like, we've made choices as men, you know, to keep us connected with what our paths are, right? Like, for me as an artist, I feel like a priest without a church, you know, like a servant of God without a clear vision of who God is or what it is, you know. But
are you a full-on atheist, or?
Nah, see, that's where I don't like falling into those terms.
I don't either. I just wanted.
I believe in a higher power, and a lower power, and in a power around me, and in a mystery that is so beautiful just to be alive.
Yeah.
Like, for example, one thing before, I was gonna come here today is that I wanted to mention, Jose Lozano, Angel Miranda, Magoo, you know, Antonio Garcia, Amos Menjavar.
Who are these guys?
These are all artists that died not Magoo, but Andy Ledesma. These artists that died last year that are Chicano artists. You know, Laura Aguilar. Those are the kind of other artists that are kind of came before me, you know, but set the roads for me. Like, we have a culture, you know, of artists that have dedicated their lives and have never really been given their full, you know, notoriety or attention to a life as artists that they dedicated their whole life to, you know.
But their service still matters. And
their work still matters. And it's still here. And we need to see it and to take care of it, you know. Yeah. And then it comes back around to this thing, once again, like ceremony. Like, there's certain people that are the caretakers of the bundles of the sacred objects, you know. And it's not for everyone, you know. Maybe it's not. Like, once you put it in a museum behind a glass shelf, like, it's dead. It's like getting a CD like 1,000 years from now and just looking at the CD like, wow, so amazing. And you're like, dude, that shit was supposed to be played. Like, you got to hear the music. This is just an object, like, with a function, you know?
You just reminded me how exotic they used to be and how, like, blasé they are now. You know? Like,
well, what I'm saying is, though, it's like people take those devices or that, what we've created. Like, you could, okay, it's like one of my paintings, you know, like, you could nerd out on the aesthetic or the surface of it or everything, but it really goes deep, you know, into the idea or the context that I'm trying to communicate to people, whether I'm mirroring back to us who get the codes, the cryptic codes for those who know, or I'm kind of also contextualizing the work and telling that story for future generations, you know, so that they could at least connect, because the more whiteness that they go into, and whiteness doesn't just mean Caucasian people. Whiteness means like, you're down with the law, you know, like the bigger, like, power, you know, the state, you know, and because you want to enjoy all the benefits of it. So, like, you don't give you know, so you're going to deny all those things that we're talking about earlier today, you know, like that are part of our culture, you know, in order to acquiesce to hierarchical powers, you know, and that's a choice.
Yeah.
I think it's a life choice, right? Like, you know, like for everyone, you know. But I've always had, I mean, even though I grew up with a Catholic culture, you know, like I still at least got some form of empathy, you know, through the teachings of Jesus and the saints and you know, like of humility, you know.
Yeah.
And like through all those codes and everything, you know, and a crazy aesthetic of suffrage and like, you know, blood and gore and fucking, you know, Jesus's torn up knees and like on the cross, like, you know, so all those rituals I've put into my performance work, you know, or it's part of it, you know. Yeah, so
I think also people confuse what art really, its role in society is and has been, you know. I think that, yeah, there are situations like, I think the easiest thing to take away from looking at someone's work is this sense of devotion, right? And I think that when you look at, like, say, even though it's kind of genericized and it's a tourist hotspot, the amount of fucking work of devotion that it takes to make like something like the Sistine Chapel, even though it is part of this imperialist, powerful structure, I think that still translates, right? Like, sure, there are all these stories and there's all these narratives, but I don't feel like Michelangelo didn't believe in the teachings of Jesus. You know, it would be hard to phone that shit in. Or you get what I'm saying?
Well, in a way. Well, no. The only thing is that
unless you think he's like a cynic. And
I can't get into another artist.
No. But what
thought
I'm saying,
or felt or like their world.
The devotion is on the page, right? Like the devotion.
His skill is incredible.
Skill is incredible, but
it's just like to this day.
Yeah, but
like wow. So funny how we hear the church bells. I don't know if it comes out right now.
It probably won't, but yeah.
But wow.
But what I'm saying is, like, I grew up going to those churches that were, let's say, I went to the heart of where the colonialism came from, right? I grew up in Rome. I used to go to see all those churches and all of that stuff.
Oh, wow.
You know? Yeah. And so that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's really hard when you're standing in Assisi and you're in this Franciscan town that's like 3 streets over on the top of a like mountainous hill. You're like, you got one street here, one street here, one street here. You're looking out onto this valley, and they carved this place into the stone, essentially out of this like random place. You don't get that feeling here. There's no devotion walking down, even like a nice part of LA. You know, even like Beverly Hills, not that that's nice, but I'm just saying, like, you don't have that.
It's a mimicry, right, of that.
Yeah,
right?
At best, it's simulacra.
It's like we didn't wear fucking those long robes with sandals, you know, like, and yeah.
But even then, all of those chapels, like, right, like, you know, in Santa Maria del Fiore in Florence, which is the big the Duomo cathedral, right there, you go inside and there's all these little cathedrals, all these little spots inside, and they have these frescoes. And the frescoes, when they take you through them, they start telling you, like, this was this rich Medici, this was this guy, this was this guy. So it is, two things are happening there which are really fascinating, right? Like, that is a system of control and system of power, but then the people that are donating to those to get their faces on these spaces, you know, on these frescoes, maybe they don't necessarily believe in the afterlife and all of that, but for them, having their faces associated with these like historical narratives gives them godliness. It associates their power with spirituality.
So it's political, or it's also political.
It's a political thing, but at the same time, like, did they believe? Didn't they believe? Why are they like? Why would? I guess the question I'm asking, and it's a rhetorical one, but it's an interesting one to consider, is like, at what point is the propagandistic benefit of making something beautiful so much more valuable to you, or are you really afraid of God and you're building this because you want to get into heaven? Because that's the narrative they tell you.
Okay. So you're talking about, first of all, like, beauty is, of course, okay, I'll come back to it. Okay, so you have this comes around in art a lot, like sincerity versus insincerity, right? There's a lot of artists that are like that are more just trying to tear things down. There's others that try to build things up, and beauty is arbitrary, right? And we're always trying to redefine it, especially within a commercial world, which is the culture that we're in. So that's a whole other thing, right? Because like with indigenous cultures, we didn't have a term of artist. It just was part of everyone's like living, it was like you're an artisan or you're a worker, you did whatever you did, and you try to bring out that beauty within it, or mastership within it. And now it's like all our old definitions and categories are kind of like falling apart, or they're just kind of like what does it mean to be an abstract artist today? What does it mean to be a painter? What does it mean to be a contemporary artist? What does it mean to be a political artist? Like, what does it mean to be a famous artist? What does it mean to be a community artist or an artivist, or like, there's just all these terms, and at the same time, he like, someone who's was just made in LA is one thing, and another artist who has like 5 million followers who's not even in the art world is another, and they don't even probably know of each other, and it doesn't matter. All those things that were, the fact that I have a master's degree, like, what does it mean today? Like, the fact that I have a bachelor's degree, like, what does it mean today? But earlier on, it meant everything. Yeah. It meant that, like I was saying, that I got to get the respect from my parents, at least, that, look, mom, look, culture, I made it through college, like, like, I went to the military, like, I'm an American, like, I fought for the Navy for our rights, like, in the Navy for our rights, like, I got the degrees, like, now what?
Yeah.
And then there's always going to be some other little kind of fucking thing to, like, keep you in your place, and so how do you, those are the interesting things, right? Like, how do you navigate culture in that way? Like, why aren't these huge white institutions like valuing my work? Why have I never been in a Made in LA exhibition when I'm fucking born and raised and made in LA, like in LA, and what does it mean anyways? Like, I love all these things because it keeps me as an artist also like sharp, and aggressive. It's like I still have the eye of the tiger, because like a lot of artists are trapped in the market.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only place for us now.
No, it's not the only place at all for us. No.
For in the sense of like,
there's art in the streets. Look at look at graffiti, man. Like,
I think if you want to be in that, if you want to be less that 5 million follower counter that doesn't want to be in the art world, like, yeah, you can do that. But I think to have some level of relevance in the dialogue about being an artist, right? I think, unfortunately, it does matter who's writing about you and I think that the reality is that it takes an infrastructure to build an artist's career, right? Same thing as it used to do back then, right? Like they needed patrons. Now you need a gallery to, like, I'm not saying that you can't have an institutional career, you know.
But that's me as a specific artist.
Mm.
My path has never been through the gallery system.
No, I understand.
They've never really found my work to be commercially viable.
Yeah,
and that's been my saving grace.
Why is that?
Because my work has always been rooted with the people and being out in the streets and being like the people who collect my work are the artists that I admire and that are on the top of their game are in the art world.
I know
in the gallery system.
Your homies are all doing well for sure.
Yeah, and they buy my work and they respect my practice. And I'm like, oh shit, what a weird life I live. Like they're the ones who are buying my stuff, but all these other like galleries like won't even put me in a group show or like they just. There's something, and that's where it brings me back to the spirituality and the ancestors. Like, okay, maybe there's something bigger than me where I'm just like guided, where it's like, don't fuck with this dude. Like, just get enough to live, concentrate on your practice, like absorb the moment you're in because like, it's like careful what you wish for or like the situation, like to live in interesting times as an artist. Yeah. Or to be threatened by a culture, or being erased, or the fact that the content I'm doing could imprison me. Like, but I'm a political artist and I come from this legacy. So it's like, now that the opportunity is here, like, I better do what I do. And luckily, I'm old enough to be like, well, fuck, you got me. Like, I at least lived a really good life. Like, but I'm going to keep doing whatever I can and to speak truth to power and to, like, be the best artist I can, you know? Because I have because I'm not on that list yet, you know, that I just gave you, that I have life. Like,
but I have a question.
Yeah.
How much of that, because I know the artists that you're talking about who like your work and purchase it, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's an age gap there. I feel like a lot of those guys are like in their early 30s at best. And we are also of a Latino generation that I'm saying that maybe if you were younger and if you had lived in a different time, because you know, Piel de Mazapan, ¿cómo se llama? Jacqueline Valenzuela. She does lowrider art. She's from Cal State Long Beach. You probably know people that know her. She's homies with Elmer and some of those guys. Mm-hmm. So she was on, and all the doors have been opened up for her, and I think it's generational, you know, to some degree. And like I was saying, I'm not saying it's invalid, and I think
our generation did that for them. Like
exactly.
That was our, not just the market, but we put out those ideas. We created that path through culture for them.
But that goes back to what I was saying. Devotion.
And something bigger than us, yeah.
So, even in a secularized mindset, what makes truly great art is that level of devotion, right? Because you have this generation
of... It's a calling, not a career.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, yeah.
I totally agree with that. And there are people who can take the effort to try to figure out the business. I think that a lot of people are handicapped because they go into massive amounts of debt. If we had a different system, like say if it was straight up just a like the old school apprenticeship system, I think it might be an interesting interesting different world.
I mean, I'm in debt, but you can't draw blood from a stone.
What do you mean?
Like, I might have a low credit score, but I still have everything I need.
Oh, yeah.
I just said, you know what? I'm not going to fucking pay my student loans back.
Yeah.
I can't afford it.
Oh, okay. That's what you picked
up. But I got
a
master's degree, and they can't take it back.
Like, that's not. No, I get what you heard, but it's different than what I was saying. What I'm saying is that what I'm saying is that the way that the system is set up today, I wasn't taught. I'm pretty sure you weren't taught on how to do what people like Elmer and these other guys that are younger than us, that I don't know how they figured it out. I know Elmer just was grinding like crazy. He also went to Cal State. Where did you study?
At Otis College of Arts.
Otis College of Arts.
Both. I got both degrees there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that if we had a different system where you didn't need to be credentialed to be taken seriously, or I as you know, exhibit B, I didn't get my MFA. I started a podcast. I've been doing it for 6 years, right? So like that, again, I not to self-aggrandize, but that's devotion in the sense it's like a mental illness, right? Like I need to be around artists because I will not be happy if I'm not around artists. And everything else,
you want to be practicing.
But not just practicing, in dialogue,
okay.
right?
Okay.
For me, because that keeps me grounded in what I'm doing, and it gives me the confidence to follow what I'm doing. Like what I'm doing is really basic right now. Like this stuff, these patterns are all really basic, you know, let's say non-innovative, you know? But I know what I'm chasing, and I know why I like it, and I know what I want from it, right? Yeah. And just because it could be perceived as like very simplistic, right? Like just a repeating pattern over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. Like there is something that looking at that stuff gives me a sense of satisfaction, and it's not even like when people tell me they like it, I'm like, oh, cool, I'm on the right track. But I would do it anyway. Yeah. You know, and so
you're not doing it for that.
So that is where
it's not a foil.
That's where I'm like, you can't draw the Sistine Chapel and not give a shit about art. And I think that, there's a lot of secularism and stuff like that, but I think that stuff that you and I are a little bit more into is like, I've been getting really into like early Gnosticism. Gnostics are basically is a broad category that was invented to kind of define all these offshoots pre-Roman Catholic Church, right? To me, that's really interesting because it's a lot about the dialogues of this spiritual practice that, you know, like I also am like, yeah, Jesus had a point, you know, to some degree, not whatever it's been corrupted, not whatever it's been, you know, like we see like nowadays we see plenty of populist movements get infiltrated by menacing actors, right? Like when there's a protest, there's agent provocateurs. That shit happens with any system that's popular and that has, so like, let's say this isn't even my ideas. This is a Kurt Metzger thing. He's a comedian that grew up Jehovah's Witness, and like, he's really interested in all of this stuff and kind of might bleed into this, but like he thinks that Christianity was just a populist movement that spread like wildfire. I don't know if you how well versed you are in it, but it used to be something they had to do in secret. Now the persecution is much more overstated than it actually was. Like it was like there was a small window. It wasn't like thousands of years in the Roman Empire. It was a very specific time. It gets highlighted because they had a fucking Colosseum to do it in. But this idea of like sincerity and devotion versus co-option, that's kind of what my question about the cathedrals was, right? Like you've got these artists and they want to make art and they're devoted, and who knows if they believe in God or not, whatever. We can debate that. It's not necessarily relevant, but they had something that they were fucking cared enough about to like the technique. Let's say they only gave a shit about technique, which is basically where I'm at, right? There's nothing spiritual in my work. It's all technique. That devotion, I think.
That's not true, though. I don't know how you could say that.
That what is not true?
How can you say there's no... I mean, you're just kind of refuting what you were talking about before. Like, in order for you to finish these works, follow a practice, there is a devotion.
Yeah, but but I'm saying that my devotion could be to the technique and not to the art. Right? Like, let's say like, for example, I'm a tennis player and I really spend a lot of time on my swing, you know, maybe that it like, I have to enjoy the process of practicing that to do that. So I'm just saying, I'm leaving it up in the air. I'm not saying that it's a religious devotion. I'm saying his devotion is to the practice.
Well, I'm gonna pivot a little bit because you're going into way deep like traditions that I'm not
too familiar with.
I'm not too familiar with, or if anyhow, like right now I've been thinking about, because I know like the hour's gonna be up soon.
Yeah, I mean, if not, the hour is up, but there's no rush.
Oh, okay. Because I want to kind of like get into this, and maybe it'll loop back around to what you're saying. But I've been thinking so much about horror films and like Squid Games, zombie culture, body snatchers, and the fact that, for example, like with this whole thing that happened with ICE, you know, with the shooting of Alex Pretty, that it was two Mexican Americans that did it.
Is it
under ICE?
Is that what has been revealed? I don't know.
Yeah, it was just revealed.
I've definitely seen dudes that look under their masks saying "bro," and I'm like, "Dog."
And you're like, this is the culture we're living in and have been living in since, like you say, you know, since the, you know, the Texas Rangers, you know, but it's all coming out, and it's not the cartoon that we thought it was, right? Like, oh, it's just going to be black and brown bodies being killed by white Nazis.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's something way more pervasive that's about ideology and not just how you look.
But does that surprise you? Because there's cops. There's already black
No,
cops.
I know, but
like, I mean, this is not.
But it's that you're looking at it on your phone.
Yeah.
And it's like the new sitcom that you're like, what's it called again? Like when you watch the whole
binge,
like you're binge watching a reality sitcom on your phone as it's unfolding, and it's taking more and more hours of your day, and I'm just like, what the fuck am I in now? Because it's feeding a dopamine rush that we now are like addicted to, you know.
I'm making an effort to detox on dopamine.
And our stories are unfolding, and at the end you're just like, fuck, am I gonna be the one that doesn't make it to the next Squid Games episode?
Oh yeah.
You know, and I just get caught slipping, you know, or the algorithm catches up to me, you know. And to see these empty like spaces of like where the elotero was, and now he's disappeared, and it's like, you know, like The Last Man on Earth, you know, which was a movie with Vincent Price in it, you know, like it's these weird like aesthetic, psychological, technological like ops, and then like I just kind of want to bring it back to my practice a little bit, like with what we're talking about. So I kind of been going back to like Romer Bearden, John Hartfield.
That's a German.
Well, he was fighting against the Nazis, right?
Yeah.
And Romer Bearden was like repositioning all of pop culture, you know, through the Harlem Renaissance about white fucking, you know, culture, and recreating it and showing his dignity, you know. And so I'm like, fuck, I come from this lineage. Now I'm doing like video collage, you know. And it's just like the struggle has never stopped, you know, like for these powers that be that want to control you, you know,
it never
and
stops.
Control everything. Yeah. And within that midst, like to be able to have that luxury to make art or to fight for that space, you know, to be able to do it is so incredible. I don't know. I've just been thinking a lot about that. I've been thinking about these things. I'm still trying to make sense of it. You know, and now, even though, like, I don't know, I saw this little snippet. David Bowie was talking about how, you had all these graph artists back in the late 80s, you know, and then right away the market got Keith Haring, Jean-Michel Basquiat, and I forget this other artist. He's here in LA now. He does the stuff with the big noses, and it's
Cause?
No, before him. No, it's from back in the early. Anyhow, I'm not going to talk shit, but he's not my favorite artist. But I don't know him. I mean, as aesthetics. But it was interesting how like the market got them so that no one could have access to them, so that they could, you know, create a market and everything. Where graph art is such rooted in the people, you know, like and accessible to all. Anyone could go up and fucking spray paint a wall. You know what I mean?
I think that's probably why what's his name gets backlash, Banksy. You know, because he lives in both worlds, and I think people resent that.
Oh my God, that's a whole other one. I was just talking to some people about that. Chicanos were basically like his Sherpas in LA. Whether or not, yeah. I have friends where he stayed at their place.
So it is one dude?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then other Chicano friends of mine that were like, oh yeah, I showed him where to tag, where to come up. Oh yeah, I gave him a place to stay. Like I said, a place to stay. Like, oh, we produced his exhibition. You know, we did his prints. Oh, like, and it happens to be all like these Chicano, you know, artists that were living in LA, man. It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's like behind the scenes, you're always going to find some fucking, you know, Mexicanos, Latinos fucking doing the work. Like,
that's my problem with LA. They should be the ones fucking hiring white people to do the work like we did in Miami. My grandfather used to hire white dudes to cut down trees. And he would negotiate with them, and he would be like Spanish. He would be like, "Oh, I only speak Spanish," and then he would get one over on them, and they would be like, "Oh, he speaks pretty good English."
The one who does that is Jorge Pardo. I remember talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, you gotta have some good, you know, you gotta." I'm like,
hire some. He would
hire. He'd love to hire like European, like
make him sweat.
Artists, you know, or people within his studio, you know.
That'd be awesome to just in fact, you're giving me a fantasy of just having like a staff of only white ladies, because they're the ones that are the biggest problems with me.
It's aesthetics, right? I know, that's like the brown fantasy.
Fuck the white guys.
Mix my paint.
Yeah.
Mix my paint, white man. No, we're digressing. We're
gonna get ice knocking.
Oh, that's funny, right?
No, but I think it's interesting. I think the whole conversation is interesting. Just kind of like the lineages, what is there like a regular ritual that you perform for yourself? Are there any like active rituals that you have? You know, like, for example, this is a ritual I do to get oxytocin instead of dopamine. You know, oxytocin is the love hormone or whatever, the bonding hormone. And I'm not falling in love. But we are, to some degree, having a conversation. We're bonding. We're spending an hour talking. That gives me oxytocin instead of me scrolling on my phone, right? So those are the things that I'm trying to do more and more. What are your rituals? Like, what do you have? Anything, because we went to that OPAF, and you were really drawn to my friend Franco, who I've known since I was like in Costa Rica, and he had something with incense and stuff, and you were really drawn to that piece that he had at OPAF. Do you remember the one?
He had a coyote one with speakers.
Yeah. I think I still have the stickers from
that. I noticed one, the snake one.
Yeah.
You know what's a trip is that, like, I'm telling you, like, I lost all these friends of mine this past couple years, and also like I'm getting into like my mid-50s, and then I have like this cosmic horror all around me, like you're saying, this context where like you could get snatched up any moment. So it really takes you to get out of yourself and observe yourself and see your own patterns, you know, and to appreciate each one of them for what they are, you know? So I've been very aware of, like, every morning I get up and I grab a handful of bird seed and throw it out, you know, in my patio area.
Mm-hmm.
And I see the birds come down, you know, or let's say I'll paint all night, you know, and I know I'm gonna wake up at 10 in the morning or around that area, around that time, and then, like, you know, feed the dog, feed the birds, fucking, like, you know, paint in the morning while my coffee's, you know, brewing, and then come back up, you know, put some time on the computer, like, you know, watch the phone, you know, check out your phone, or, you know, you catch yourself doing it more and more. And so, you know, teach.
Are you teaching?
You know, yeah, I'm teaching. You know, I've always been blessed in that way, like working with youth,
mm-hmm.
and they'll bring you down to reality right away. Like, you cannot take yourself seriously if you're teaching kids. You know,
which is why I can't teach kids.
Talk about keeping you humble. Like, they're just like, dude.
It just made me realize I'm too arrogant to teach kids. I used to do it. It used to be a lot.
I've done it for like almost 30 years or more of teaching, you know, like kids. I used to teach incarcerated youth, and, you know, like, you know, just kids, at-risk youth, and like, now it's mostly just kids, but kids in the hood, in the, you know, the barrios and stuff. They're amazing. But anyhow, like, at the end, you know that door is closing, and you only have so much more time in this world, you know, and you have a new generation coming up. So all you could do is kind of like tighten up your practice.
Mm-hmm.
And really work towards that mastership that you've dedicated your entire... I mean, I have the blessing to have been making art since I was a little kid. Like, that's all I've ever really known. Like, you know, that's been my full dedication, you know. And so, but now, because it's not market driven, it's about the story and the context. So I have to really tell that story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why things like this are amazing, because it's, you know, 100 years from now or something, you know, hopefully we'll still have some type of internet connection or whatever, you know, and there'll still be like glimpses of that if someone is really, you know, and I have had like museums like to buy my work. So, you know, like you're
downplaying your success.
Well, I'm just saying it's not a market, like like a private gallery thing. It's more museums and university driven, which is good. Yeah. That way it's about knowledge, it's about information, you know. And before that it was, and still now it's very connected with community, you know. But it's never been like market.
Yeah.
You know. And so that's just my path. I don't know like how people resonate to work, you know what I mean? Like, some stuff are a lot more pop, you know,
But I also think it's maybe not too late for you, though. You know, I do think that some of those young heads are definitely trying to get... It's
out of my control.
It's out of your control, but I think that you're probably in the same era
and honestly,
as Victor Estrada.
It's been a blessing because, for example, right now I'm wrestling with a commission.
Mm-hmm.
I can't handle that stress over me.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine having to produce like
for a show
12 pieces within 6 months or something.
That's what I don't have.
I just, because I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Until I start it, and then once I'm working on the painting, all I know is what I don't want, and then a glimpse starts happening as it starts formalizing itself. What I want, what I think I want, but any moment, one of those nights or days, the painting will take a turn, and it's always a wrestling match, and I don't know what I'm gonna end up with at the end, you know.
But that's the fun,
which is probably antithetical to like what you do.
Yeah, I mean, with these, I have a harder time. I started doing this stuff, the more pattern-based stuff.
But you don't do that and then change it up and then say, "Oh, I think I'll
with these up here,
I think I'm gonna throw a big wash of black over it and throw it.
No, I've drawn
and then see what lands."
I've drawn it before I start painting it. Yeah, but I'm not a painter. I'm a drawer. So for me, once the drawing is done, it's just a matter of. For me, the way I think about it is like, I made the drawing. Now I just got to color it. That's my approach to painting.
I try, like with this commission, I tried to do that.
Yeah.
Won't happen.
Wow, that's interesting.
It won't.
Can you draw from imagination? I can't.
Of course.
Yeah, I struggle. I can't draw figures from imagination.
Wow.
I can draw like, I just get the proportions wrong. I can draw, or I used to be able to. That was like 20 years ago.
I mean, one of the movies I'm making called Love Under Lust is a pencil mural that I draw from my imagination around the time of Iraq, the Iraq War. And I filmed myself for over 2 years, like drawing it, you know.
I've never seen your video stuff.
Yeah. I'm still working on it. It's not done.
Well, but do you have other ones that are done or no?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of short videos and stuff like that. But now I'm working on 2 like full-length movies.
Have you thought?
One's called Half Man, Half Monster, and the other one's Love Under Lust. And they're, you know, I've been they're well underway.
Cool.
You know,
so like 90 minutes, full length.
One's a Half Man, Half Monsters at about an hour and 40 minutes.
Okay.
But then again, I'm more of a visual artist. Storytelling is another discipline.
Yeah. And
it's been harder for me to really get. So it's been like a 10-year project. Each one has been about a 10-year project.
Yeah.
No. Love Under Lust has been almost like I would say 17-year project. And then Half Man, Half Monster has been about a little over 10 years. You know. But it'll be ready when it's ready. I don't have someone fucking with me to tell me, "Hey, dude, are you done with it yet?" Like, I could not do that. You know, so that once again, just bringing it back to like the ancestors or the spirits or the mystery, like how we do what we do. For me, it's more like surfing. Like I'm just out there. I put myself in the ocean and wait for the wave to come.
Yeah.
And some are gonna be smaller, some are gonna be bigger. But I'm there to take it. I also don't take some. Now I know which ones not to take. You know
really?
What I mean? Where before I would take anyone that looked big or promising. Now I know what not to do, you know, like out of the years of practice, you know, but yeah. And sometimes you got to get out of your own way, you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. I mean, we've been going for 124. So, if any final thoughts, anything you didn't manage to get out? I know you had some notes. Anything? I don't want to.
I mean, the only thing I wanted to mention was that it is very interesting times. I have a show coming up at Bellas Artes, which is
where's that?
Bellas Artes is.
Sounds like it's in Miami.
No, it's in Mexico City.
Okay.
That's where they have Camarena's, Diego Rivera's murals.
Okay.
Siqueiros' murals. They have a huge, it's a huge cultural center. It's probably one of the most important in Mexico. And I'm in a group show with a bunch of other Chicano artists, like about 20 of us. It's called Aslan Túnel del Tiempo. It's going to be this March. And for example, I was talking to the curators with like setting up the show, and they were telling me that they get 7,000 to 9,000 people a day. So that's the type of venue that this is.
Wow.
It's huge. For us to be acknowledged by Mexico, you know, as Mexicanos in the U.S., you know, like territory, and to come back, like, is a big deal.
Yeah.
You know,
that's really interesting as a show concept for that. Yeah.
It's incredible in that way. Like last year or almost 2 years ago, that happened to us in Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting to go back to Spain or to go to Spain and kind of like go through that. And then I'm going to be in another show at El Museo Nacional de Antropología about Coatlicue, who's like, I was talking to you about her, like, that's like my deity. You know what I mean? That's like who I connect with so much. And so that's coming up. And then I'm going to be in a show at John Doe Gallery with Alex Becerra in September.
So that's going to be in LA.
Yeah.
John Doe's here.
That's going to be in LA. So they're pretty big things that fell on my plate. And I swear to God, it was so funny because like a month before, after the holidays, it was one of those moments where like, you don't know what the hell you're going to do in the next year.
Mm-hmm.
You just have no clue, and there was nothing really set.
Yeah.
And then when before that, when that No Kings March last came, I just felt it like in my system, like I gotta do this performance that I had in my head.
That's the ice one, right?
Yeah. And I did it, and it just like resonated with people.
Yeah, people. I saw.
It was so like it had never. It's like I haven't been doing as much performance art lately as I have been painting. So like, I was really like, wow, this is so amazing that it really connected that way with the people, and because of that piece, they asked me to be in that exhibition.
Oh, congrats.
So it was just totally, like I said, like it's this, it's the spirits in a way, or like something bigger than you that's just like, follow your hunch, as Joseph Campbell would say, follow your bliss, and then like that happened, and it opened up this whole other doorway path, like so those things always reaffirm like my practice and who I am and what I do, and that's all. I just want to share that with you.
For sure, man. I mean, congrats. We definitely do plugs, and those are great ones. I've never been to Mexico City, so it would be interesting.
Oh, well, yeah. March 25th.
I'm gonna be in school then, but
all right.
Cool, man. And then your Instagram is.
They call it a field trip.
No, it's not. It's not school for that. It's not art related school, but I wish. What's your Instagram?
It's Mr. Raul Baltazar. MR.RAULBALTAZAR.
By the way, how come you spell your name without an H? It's not biblical then.
I don't have an H. No, yeah, just Baltazar.
I spelled your name wrong one time, and I had to correct it, but I was like, oh shit. I just always assumed it was the
lot of people do that once in a while. Yeah,
but it's like, it's such a funny thing. And then
a lot of people have it as a first name too.
Yeah. There's the in a David Lynch movie, Baltasar Getty is the main actor in.
Wasn't he the one who was kidnapped?
Like in real life or in the movie?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, he was kidnapped.
He's the guy that plays the second half of that movie where it kind of switches. Remember, like it's the first half of the movie is one guy, and then I think it's like Bill Pullman, and then he becomes Baltasar Getty, if I remember correctly. I haven't seen that shit.
And then there was a Baltasar Carlos who was the prince who, in the room where Velázquez paints Las Meninas, that was like his kind of like room or something, or his part of the castle. I don't know.
Wow.
Baltazar, yeah. I don't know.
No, it's just interesting.
The pricks of colonialism.
Yeah. No, for sure. But it's also kind of like been butchered, like, because my name is Proenza, and the biggest concentration of Proenzas is in Cuba. But then there's also Brazilian Proenzas that spell it with that little C instead of a Z.
Yeah, so, like in Mexico, they say Melchor, Gaspar, y Baltasar. They don't say Baltasar.
No, I always
maybe
say,
the Spanish.
I always say Baltasar, but it's
a silent H?
In English, it's Baltasar. Like, anyway, whatever, dude. This is like...
yeah, we're going up.
Anyway, thank you so much for doing the show, man. It's always a pleasure, and I definitely want to see some of the video stuff, because I didn't even know you made that.
Oh, right on.
And if you guys enjoyed this episode and this conversation, like and subscribe. Rate us 5 stars wherever you can, and comment and
share.
Ask questions. Share, definitely. That's one that I need to start doing. Share for sure. Oh, by the way, at one point, your last episode suddenly got like a bump, and I was like, this motherfucker promoted it on Facebook. I knew it.
Oh yeah.
I was like, after months afterwards, like all of a sudden it got a spike, and I think you just were like, oh yeah, I did this. Let me put it on Facebook. And I gotta do it. Yeah, we gotta do it. Yeah. But I appreciate that. And then if you would like to help us, all that liking and all that algorithm stuff really helps our artists get seen more. It helps me get more visibility as well, so that I can get even more interesting kinds of artists and get more clout, and then elevate the whole catalog. And
promote our culture, because it is under attack and they want to erase it.
Yeah.
So if we don't promote it, who the hell will? Right?
Yeah, I'm constantly defending Cubans.
All of us, man. We're on the same bucket.
Yeah. And then, if you guys would like to join our Patreon program, it's $5 a month, gets you early access. It's a huge help. It's $60 a year. If you guys can spring it, I need it.
Yes.
and appreciate it.
You spend more on that, on fucking your little lattes and stuff. You know that.
I don't want to guilt anyone's spending habits. I would just like to be included in them. And then if you support us, you get the early access episodes, and you get on the patron scroll, along with Tony Irons, M. Truskovsky, Nick Lowe, Amir Zaki, Hiroshi Clark, Jackie Castillo, and Ryan. And yeah, thank you guys so much for all the support over the years. It's been a long ride, and we're not stopping. So.
Hey, you know what would be cool?
What's that?
The person who gives you the most at the end of the year, you let me know, and I'll give you a drawing for them.
Okay. Yeah, that works. I'll take that. I mean, yeah, for YouTube purposes, it's not a giveaway and it's not a binding contract, but yeah, we'll work it out. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, man. Also, I'll just take one of your pieces too.
There you go. Okay.
Or I'll trade with you. I'll trade if there's anything you want. But thank you guys so much. We'll be back next week with another guest and another topic that may or may not be art related. Thanks, man.
Peace. Yes.